Peyton, I want to move on a little to you guys in college. And Peyton, you went to Southwestern Louisiana, one of the first athletes to integrate sports down there, uh, being a black player, and you still hold the record for field goal percentage in a career. So I just want to hear a little bit about um, your experience there and your time on the court.
Really, well, my freshman year was good. I enjoyed that. I got hurt the last game of the season. Uh, Shot at my elbow, my right elbow, the last game of the season. I was on the cast for about, I guess, 3 months, and it was one of the best. I think one of my best time I had down here was my coach. Was Coach Shipley. He kept me on a string. I had to go to class every day. That was the one thing. It was the best thing for you. If you don't go to class, you don't play. And he kept that on my heel every day. He always keep assistant coach. It was Tom Cox. Every morning he was there at my dorm and make sure I went to class. My first class always been 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. And he always there knocking on my door to see if I'm there. If I'm not there, you know I'm going to class. And it was the best year of my freshman year. Was my freshman. I got a freshman of the year, and I got the most valuable freshman at the same year, and made the first team Gulf State uh, tournament. And we was on probation that year. I came there with probation. The school was on probation well, for black athletes. I was a third black athlete that got a full scholarship. Another guy named Marvin Winkler, he was from Indiana, and he was the first one. Another one was Evan Ivory. He was the second. I was the third one. Got the full scholarship. Other black players on the team had partly scholarships and quarter scholarships, and some paid books and some paid tuition. That's how it was when I got here. And most of the guys came here from black. Well, one guy from Washington D.C. He was on partial scholarship. He didn't like it too much. So I ended up taking his job because he was a 6'10", 360 pounds, and he was a bull. And I took his position, and he didn't like that too good. Me and him had a big falling out, and he found out he ended up me and him being one of the best friends I had. And he could take me every place I went. Every place I went, he went. And well, freshman year we didn't go nowhere in no tournaments. But sophomore year, I got in the hospital again before the season even started. The little guy from Louisiana hit me inside the head with a crowbar and shot at my side of my right side of my head. And but before the season started, right before I think the freshman start came in, and I was one of the captains. I had to keep him off the practice court when we played there because they had a PE class there too, and he didn't like what I told him to get off the court. I told him 3 times, and the third time he went out one door and came in another door, hit me inside the head from the back. And I lived from there. And I played that season, and we ended up playing against some, I don't know, the Iceman. I played against him, and I played against another guard. I played with Boston, and I played against him. I can't think of his name right now, but and a couple more guys. They even played against Elvin Hayes.
Okay, yeah, the Iceman George Gervin. Yeah, he's a great player. And Willie, you kind of mentioned your kind of reasoning behind going to Notre Dame. Uh, I want to know kind of what it was like with Mike joining you, and Well, actually, I'll go to Mike and say you were originally going to go to Purdue, I guess. And
That's correct. That's correct. I actually was. Uh, I got recruited by Purdue, heavily recruited by Purdue, heavily recruited by University of Michigan, heavily recruited by Ohio State, and the thing was that to follow up with Willie going to Notre Dame, because Willie that was back when Notre Dame was on Sunday mornings and it's late afternoon. We get back from church and Willie would run to the TV and turn on Notre Dame, and with Lindsey Nelson, he would just sit there until the game was over. I'd be outside playing football or something of that nature, doing something, whatever it was, and I I he was already there. Willie didn't put no pressure on me. He just let me figure it out. Purdue was chasing me down real big, real tough, along with University of Michigan, Bo Schemberger, because of our high school coaching. Willie and Payton could contest to this, that our high school coach, basketball coach, Bob Sweeten, did not allow you to talk to any recruiter during basketball season. he would make you wait until basketball season was over, then talk to a recruiter. So if you went as far as going to state or went to district, you didn't get to talk to a recruiter until after all that was done. So by that time, it's past, it's close to March, and all you got is March, April, May left before they stop recruiting, or else they run out of, as they would call, scholarships. And my senior year, Purdue was sending me stuff, and then finally I went out and visited. I visited Purdue, went to Michigan, went to Colorado State. Where else did I go? What other? I forget. Whatever. And Notre Dame, and went to Notre Dame, and Willie was I was his guest. He was my guide for the weekend. He didn't push no pressure on me. He didn't say, "Hey, you need to come here," because that was his love, and he wasn't trying to push his love on me. And I went there. I went around campus, and at the time, I noticed there wasn't a lot of African American young men running around on campus, and it was all boys. So at the time, and so I took that in. So I came back, but once after the visit, came back and I put the pluses and minuses together with the various schools I went to. And Notre Dame was on the list, but it wasn't number one. And when I finally figured, I said, well, if I go to Purdue, Mom and Dad can come to the Purdue Notre Dame game, and halftime they could switch. Whichever one side they want to sit on, they can switch to the other side for the second half. I said, if I go to Purdue, they'll get to see both of us one game out of the season, but they get to choose where they're going to go in the interim, because Purdue's close by. They could drive to that, and I knew they was going to Notre Dame, and Peyton being down in Louisiana, they go visit him during basketball season. So I pretty much, after I got through my visit and I put all the pluses and minuses together, I decided myself I wanted to go to Purdue because they had an engineering degree in mathematics that I wanted to major in. Notre Dame didn't have that at the time. And so I went to school that morning, talked to Coach Florio. I said, Coach Florio, you need to call Bob, I think it was Bob DeMoss, who was the head coach at Purdue, and to let him know to send the paperwork down to the house. And so that's the only person I told. I didn't tell anybody else. I didn't tell Mom and Dad, because I was in school, so I couldn't tell Mom and Dad. They was working. And so Coach Florio called Bob DeMoss, and he had the paperwork sent down to the house. the wild issue is this. When I got home, it was during track season, this was going on. When I got home that day to get the paperwork from Coach Bob and Moss from Purdue, there sat the assistant coach, Brian Bullock from Notre Dame. And the first thing I was like, he didn't even say hello. He was in the house talking to my mother, and he said, I hear you want to go to Purdue. And I said, how you hear that? Because the only person I told was Coach Florio. Mm-hmm. And he said, I hear you want to go to Purdue. He said, that's a bad choice. I said, oh, it's not. I said, it's an engineering school. I said, I can go there and get the classes I want. He said, what classes you want? So I told him I wanted to go into math and get into computer science. But all that. He said, well, if I get that for you up at Notre Dame, will you hold off? And I looked at him like, I said, I was just there. Y'all don't have it. He said, but if I get that for you, will you hold off? I said, okay, I'll hold off. But I'm only giving you 2 weeks because it was like I said, it was track season. So it was going into April.
Yeah.
Going into April, and I said, I'll hold off. I said, I need to get my scholarship. I said, my brother's got theirs. I need to get my scholarship. Mm-hmm. And so he went back, and he sent me a notice that said I could major in one of those two if I chose to go to Notre Dame. That was within that 2-week window. And just so happened my girlfriend came by when he was there. And I told her all the pluses and minuses of Purdue and of Notre Dame. And she picked Notre Dame. And I asked her why she liked Notre Dame. She said, there's no girls there. and she said, I know how you are. I said, oh, I don't know why you said that, but she said there's no girls there. I said, oh boy. But anyway, she said, I said, okay, I'll take that into consideration. But when Coach Kent came back and said I could in the 2 courses I wanted to major in, when he said I could, I said, well, shucks, I just go to Notre Dame. Mom and Dad can just come up to South Bend and watch the games. We both there. Never thinking that my brother and I would end up being on a national championship team. And they got to see all those games, everything. Our good friend Don Sissel, who ran a construction company in Hamilton, the Sissel Construction Company. Whenever my parents wanted to go to a game, he paid for their ticket to go. They got to fly when we was in LA, we was in New Orleans, New York, it didn't matter. He paid for their tickets to go. And we got to see our parents at wherever we played. And it's a great thing because my mother and father wasn't making any kind of money that they could fly. They could barely drive to South Bend and be okay. But we all three have done so well that we all three live good. There's good thing. Willie does well, Payton does well, and I'm doing well. And our families have blossomed. I got 2 athletes that are grandkids that's one's definitely going to probably be an NBA trial guy. He's 6'6" now, and he's just a freshman in high school. Playing Parseghian. Okay. So in our family, there's something there. And it's coming later. It's going to be a second coming of the Townsends.
Mm. And Willie, you were a wide receiver kind of in the era, especially in the system. You guys like to run the ball a lot. But kind of what was your, I guess, game like as a wide receiver? And tell me about that road to the national championship, undefeated season, 1973, and just kind of everything that came with that season and what it felt like becoming a national champion.
Wide receiver, yeah, I had good speed, not the fastest, but pretty good speed. I could get down the road with long legs and long arms, and I could catch the ball pretty well. Better than quite a few. I got hurt my freshman year, I dislocated my left elbow diving for a fumble in the spring game, and that it just never straightened out. So I have a left arm that's only is about out of 180 degrees, it's about 160 degrees straight. So, but it didn't stop me. And the team was. I like the way Michael put it at one time. He says, we were just a bunch of guys that liked playing the game and we had fun at it. The year we won the national championship. That's how we were. And, I got to play. I got some games I got to start, some games I didn't. And then we ended up playing, not like they do now, but playing for the national championship because we were ranked in the top 5. So we ended up playing at Alabama for the national championship. And so the final play, the final play that actually sealed the deal for us was through a guy that came off the bench that had never caught a pass his entire time at Notre Dame. His name was Robin Weber. He caught a pass that sealed the deal for us to allow us to win the national championship that year against Bear Bryant. They had a really good team. They had us backed up, and they thought that, hey, we can stop them, hold them here. We got it because they'll have a short, kick a punt, and then we can come down the field and have a chance of scoring. But the pass was thrown out of the back, and then the receiver caught the ball on the sideline, and that made the difference in the game for us. Playing for Era was a treat. He was a person that built character and built people to be stronger individuals. He believed in us. We believed in him. And it's a way of life for him, or was, because he's passed. Great guy, knew how to build a team, kind of like my friend, I call him my friend Marcus Freeman now. Not about all this other stuff, all this, winning that. It's about building individuals that understand what it takes to be successful. And that's what ERA was about, building individuals that take to be successful. And I feel strongly that is what caused me and my brother Michael, I can't speak of Payton because he was in Notre Dame, to want to be successful, not just to be good, but be successful. That takes you to a whole different level. I've done a lot of different jobs since I graduated, but they all go back, and I can put fingers on times at Notre Dame and during things that I was doing during the time that I was at Notre Dame that helped me to become the person that I wanted to be, the person that I wanted people to know that I am, as opposed to just someone that's in the world. I don't want to be just in the world. I want to be someone that's trying to lead and trying to help people to understand what is needed in order to be successful in the world. That's what I want to be. And football gave me opportunity to do that. And basketball did too, but football did the most because Era was quite the coach. He was quite the individual that understood a lot about life and a lot about human nature and a lot about young people and how to help young men become better men. And so to me, that's what life about. That's what you, Michael, Payton, and I and you are all about. We're trying to help other people, not just young men, but young women of all colors, to be stronger individuals, to be better people in the world, not just to be in the world, but be better people in the world to help the world become a better place. Because it's not a good place right now, okay? But I understand that I need to make those things that all started back from high school to college and to after college, Every place I go, I try to make something better. I taught high school for a while. Middle school for a while. And in the middle school, every class that I had for 15 years came through. The kids came out better. They didn't go, they may not have come in as great. Some of them didn't, but everybody that walked out of my class would come back to my class and talk to me at any time. And that's because I kept that process going through my life, and it's still going on in my life. I'm probably the only guy in the neighborhood that I live in, and all the houses are brand new in my neighborhood. I'm probably the only guy in the neighborhood that knows 60% of the people in the neighborhood. And they know me, you know, because I want them to know that all African American people are real people. They're not just somebody you see on TV and this and that. You know, I go talk to them. I go talk to everybody in my neighborhood because I want them to know that we're real. You know, we're not just something that somebody has called us on TV. We're real people. We have a feeling. We have a heart. We have a desire to want to do good and be better. And I always want to be that way. But that came through the years that I've had to go through to get here.
And Mike, your junior year, you had 10 interceptions, which is still a single season record at Notre Dame. 13 interceptions for your career. I wonder, you know, two questions, I guess. I read that you felt you could cover sideline to sideline. Basically, you had a lot of length, a lot of speed to cover. So I wonder about how you felt at that part of your game and what it's like to still have a record like that all these years later.
Okay, Brandon. It's when the record let me go back to the year that I broke the record. It was my junior year. There was a lady who Willie and I and a few of our former teammates who lived in Fisher Hall on campus. We all used to go to games at home as a group. So we hang out together and then we just go over to the game. And we always had a path of how we going to get to the game because Notre Dame fans they get there early. They get there on Thursday evening and stay Friday, and the game's on Saturday. If it's Saturday early, they're all through all the time. Then they stay after the game till Sunday. So you just kind of want to sort of like get to the stadium and get in the stadium so you can get prepared for the game and prepare yourself and get taped and things of the nation. And we would go as a group because one could lead us through, and we just follow like a ladder, just follow each other on through. And we was going to, I forget, it was Michigan State then. And we was going through, and what we had was we would snake through the crowd outside of the locker room and get right next to the stadium and ride that round part of the stadium, passing people by till we got to the locker room, and then just dip into the locker room real quick. So we was getting there, and we was almost to the locker room. I said we was less than 10 feet from the locker room. This lady saw me, and she called my name. She said, "Mike Townsend, you need to do something. And you need to do something now." And this was like the third game of the season. And I took that on the onus, and I said, this lady out of the blue just called me out. She didn't say nothing to all the other guys. There was 6 other guys around me, but she picked me out, and she wanted to do something. So that game was my first interception that year. Like I say, it was the third game of the season. So in 7 more games, I had 10. I cannot understand why defensive backs nowadays don't have 10 in 5 games. They're throwing at a percentage of probably double what was being thrown. Remember back when I was playing, Woody Hayes said 3 yards in the clouds of dust. They was playing like that. It wasn't a whole lot of passing. It was some passing, but it wasn't a whole lot of passing. I am amazed that the record is still what it is, still there after 53 years. And there's some great players that Watts, who played for Notre Dame. He was their free safety last year. He's in the pros now. Hamilton, Kyle Hamilton, who's played for the Giants. I thought he was going to break the record. I've seen remnants of somebody who could break it, but they haven't. And it's amazing to me that it's still there. And I'm proud that it is. My teammates, every time we have a reunion, they love to brag about it because we was national champs, and my record is still there. And they claim both of those, even though the one belongs to me, but they claim both of us. And well, we got the interception record for all the last 53 years. It was national champs. So, it's fun. But I enjoy it. I have fun with it. It's going to be a day somebody break it. The guy that had it before me was Jack Snow. And I knew who it was. And I chased him down. That's really what it was. I chased him down. The last game of the season was against Southern Cal. Didn't realize this, but I knew I needed 3. I got 3, but didn't realize I had 3 until the game was over. Even though I intercepted 3 of them, but the disappointing part was the fact that Anthony Davis scored 6 touchdowns, and we lost the game, and that was the hoopla. I got defensive player of the game. He got offensive player of the game, and I wondered. I said, "Well, why are you giving me the defensive player?" He said, "Well, you got 3 interceptions," and that's the first time. And that was after the game. That's the first time I realized I had 3 interceptions. But, yeah, that record is special, and my grandkids and kids really love doing that. We went back for a few games with the kids when they was younger, and when people run up to you at Notre Dame games and they want your autograph and all that, the kids just loved it. They just love that stuff. We just had one with my brother and I, Willie. We was just up there for the USC game 2 weeks ago. And we're going through the crowd, snaking through the crowd, and these 2 ladies scream at us both and say, "Stop." And we said, "Stop." They pointed at us. "You 2 are somebody." That's all they said. "You 2 are somebody. And we going to take a picture with you." All right. And, we ended up having a conversation with the ladies, but they just out of the blue and all that crowd, they knew we were somebody. And they stopped us, took pictures with us and all that, got our autograph and all that. So, but yeah, it's a fun thing to do. Notre Dame is probably the smartest move I know in my mind that I made because the coach was unbelievable. Greatest man other than my father. And the second greatest man is coach from Minnesota Vikings. But Coach Parseghian, the man was all about making you better as a man, as a young man. And he knew that if he made you better, the team would be better. And you would graduate in 4 years. That was the biggest thing he wanted to happen for us.
Payton, what was kind of your point of view of watching your 2 younger brothers kind of perform on that stage and accomplish, some things on the national level? Kind of what did you think of that, and kind of what was your, like I said, point of view when that was going on?
I was proud of them because I watched Notre Dame football. It's about both of them in school, and most of my family down here, they're LSU fans. And I said, well, I'm not an LSU fan. My brother's playing out there, and I said I'm gonna root for them. I said I'm still rooting for them. I root for Notre Dame. I still don't root for LSU yet. Notre Dame always been my friends. My 2 brothers went to school there. I'm glad both of them to school, and both of them got what they wanted. And both of them went to pros, and both of them real satisfied with both of them. And I think the school did a lot of things to them, same way it did to me. The people that you associate with, that's the ones that will get you over your hump, and now you're scared to, especially a black person, to be where you're at now. Both of them had coaches in high school coaches and college coaches and professional coaches and all that. I think both of them did a good job on both ends there, of their stuff, and I'm real proud of them right there.
Willie and Mike, you two also played a couple of years of basketball, as you mentioned, at Notre Dame. And I just wonder, that's something you rarely see. I know a couple guys over the years that have done it. And so I wonder, Willie, like, how did that even come about that you got on the basketball team? And I guess Mike as well, when you came along those 2 years, how did it even come about of you playing for Digger Phelps, playing basketball?
Digger had actually recruited me to play basketball at a high school, and he was at Fordham at the time. And when he got to Notre Dame, he had inquired because he needed some players. The previous coach kind of left him kind of high and dry, and he ended up having to go out and do some heavy recruiting, trying to find some players. And at the last minute, so he found some, but he had asked me if I would come out and play for him, because he knew me from high school. And I got the permission from Eric Parseghian, the football coach, and also from the academic guy, Mike Chico, if I could play basketball. So I got their permission, and I went out and played first year. And then that's when we had probably the weakest team. We had a lot of players on the team that, passing wasn't one of their fortes. Okay. But we did all right. I mean, we lost more than we won, but we won a few games. And then the second year, they brought on guys like John Shoemade and Gary Brokaw and Dwight Clay and some other players on. And we ended up going to the NIT finals. And we played in Madison Square, New York for probably a week or two before, in the NITs. And they're a lot different then than they are now. Back then, they only took 16 teams, I think, or something like that, to the NIT, and they all played all the games were in New York City at Madison Square Gardens. And I enjoy playing for Digger. Digger is an interesting person. He has a very strong personality, and he stood up for his teammate, for his team. I remember on many Sundays going over his house, and his wife would make breakfast for us. We'd have a big old breakfast for the whole team, all the players, because Digger lived fairly close to campus. So you could actually walk to his house if you wanted to from where I lived on campus. And he's a great guy to want to play for. He had a lot of interesting things and a lot of things that were different. But I enjoyed playing basketball in Notre Dame. I had a good time. I got to play with some good guys. I got to play against some really good people. Like I say, people that went on to play professional basketball, and they actually helped me. I remember playing against Bill Walton one time, and he was rebounding, and he and I had gotten a little tussle. And so he went down the floor, and our band used to be right behind the basketball goal at the end of the court there, and he was mouthing off and doing some shoving to me. I didn't like it very much, and so I boxed him out and knocked him into the band one time, and so yeah, life was good. I had no problem. It was all legal, and I did the right thing. And but he used to say, Wooden used to say, "Get that football players off the court." But, it's life, basketball. I say my daughter played basketball in high school, and my son played for a little bit. And I used to say, basketball is the only non-padded contact sport
Mm,
because it is a contact.
mm.
But I enjoyed playing basketball for Notre Dame. It was a lot of fun, and I got to play all across the country because Notre Dame plays everywhere. Back then, they weren't in the league, and but now they're in the ACC, which is kind of nice for me living in Charlotte because they play. I can watch 4 or 5 games within 2 hours from where I live right now, so that's kind of nice. The women play here. I've seen them play a number of times. Ladies women basketball team. I've seen them play here quite a bit. Matter of fact, I'm going to 2 games this year. One down in Atlanta, and then the other one is going to be in Winston-Salem up here to watch women play basketball because I enjoy it. I enjoy playing it, and having gone to Notre Dame, played for Notre Dame, and I can get opportunity for tickets and go do things that maybe other people can't do. I like that.
And Mike, you mentioned before, football really being your thing, but what did you like about playing basketball at Notre Dame?
Well, it was the thing started out with Willie and I was still playing for Air Parseghian, and the season was beginning to roll to the end, and Digger Phelps, Coach Phelps, was having trials with the student body and trying to get some other players because he had one player who had a blood clot, so he couldn't play. Then he had a point guard that couldn't play, and then had another injury. So he had 3 players that they were on scholarships, and so therefore those 3 players could play. And the student body had saw my brother Willie and I play, as they call it. It's called fishing. It's called bookstore basketball, and also they have a hall league. Each hall's got a team, and they play against teams from the various other halls, and it's in a league and stuff. And we was playing teams, and the teams we was playing, we was beaten by 30 to 40 points, and teams wouldn't show up when they found out they was playing Fisher Hall, which was our team, because we had about 4 or 5 football players on the team because we had recruited some guys to Fisher Hall and they was coming in as freshmen, and we had a very talented team, and we played up and down basketball. Basically, I knew what my brother was thinking before he even dribbled the ball, so we would beat teams by, like I say, 30 and 40 points. And then sometimes if the team didn't think they was good enough, they wouldn't show up with enough players to even play a game. Well, it got around campus that the Townsend brothers play a good game of basketball. And when Digger was looking for additional players, the student body went to Digger and said, hey, you need to get those 2 guys, the Townsend brothers, and get them to have a tryout. So he, like Willie said, he went and talked to Coach Parseghian. Coach Parseghian put some stipulations that we had to follow if we was going to be on the team, and stuff, and also approval from Coach DeChico, which was our counselor, educational counselor, things we had to meet and make sure we were still gainfully, from a grade point, good and stuff. So that was all mentioned and stuff. And Digger asked for a meeting between my brother and I, and we had a meeting. And Digger asked, "Would you guys mind a tryout?" And this was after the season at Jesse in for football, so we really wasn't in our basketball mode yet, because in football it's quick dashes here and there. In basketball, they're quick dashes, but they continue to be quick dashes going you up and down. Football is to be a quick dash, one play, a slow dash the next play, don't even move on the next play. So we wasn't what we call in shape for basketball. But Digger wanted us to come by. He wanted to see whether or not we could chew gum and walk at the same time. Even though we had played football, he still wanted to see it physically. So he had a tryout for us, and he did it in as I call a hidden gym. There's gyms in the athletic and convocation center up in Notre Dame. They're on the same level. But this gym he chose to have the tryout was in a basement basketball court where he had a as a security guard, one of the managers standing by the door because the student body had heard about we was going to have a tryout that day. And the student body wanted to see what we could do against Digger's team. And we didn't know any of the teammates. We didn't know not one of the teammates. So we went down and we did it, and we did a figure 8 drill. We did a dribble drill. We did all that stuff. And Digger saw we could dribble and run and chew gum at the same time. And he said, okay. He took his starting 6 and went down to one end of the court. And he told Willie and I, he said, well, pick among the guys that are left. We didn't know any of them, so we didn't know what kind of talent they had. So we picked the tallest guy that was out there that was left. And we picked 2 other guys. We needed another guard and we needed another forward. We just picked them. We figured, weight-wise and height-wise, they'd be on our team. And we knew what we were going to do. We weren't worried about it. We just needed somebody that would at least help us with getting rebounds and help us playing defense and all that. So Digger went down, got his teams. Okay, we're going to play. We played, and we beat his starting 5 by 30 or 40 points. He didn't keep score because he didn't know what was going to happen, but he did keep time. And we beat his starting 5. And then at the end of that, he said, hey, you guys want to be on the team? And I looked at Willie. I said, well, it's up to you, man. I said, I'm just here. And I said, can you give us 24 hours? And so he gave us 24 hours. And Willie got me back in the dorm because we was in the same dorm. He said, hey, you want to play or not? And I said, well, it's up to you. If you want to play, I'll play. And he said, I think I want to play. So we both played. We played for 2 years. The first year, it wasn't a great team. Like Willie said, they didn't pass the ball a lot. They didn't realize what they had. The next year, we was in NIT. And NIT at the time, when we went to the NIT, was bigger than the NCAA. Mm-hmm. So we was in the finals in NIT a year later from that very same team. And the NCAA wasn't as big as it is now. Now, they don't even think about the NIT, but it's still there. But the NCAA wasn't as big as the NIT. But it was fun playing for Digger. He's a special kind of guy. Great coach, individual that I remember we was playing Marquette. It was on national TV. And Digger, he came to Willie and I was coming to the locker room to get ready for the game and stuff. And Digger comes out from behind his, I guess he was in the bathroom or else he was in the bathroom. So he comes out and he's got a bow tie on. And he asked Willie and I, how do I look? And I said, Coach, you look good with that bow tie. That's different. He wanted to outdo the coach at the time at Marquette was Al McGuire. Al McGuire was known to dress. He was one person that he dressed to the nines. And Digger wanted to outdo him. But that's the kind of coach he was. He was flamboyant, as they call it. But yeah, playing for Digger was fun. We had a lot of fun. And like I say, we went from 1 year not winning hardly anything to next year being in the finals at NIT. And only lose that by 1 point. Yeah. So it was fun. We really had a great time. And it reminded me of the times when we used to play down here in Garfield. It was just, we just knew how to win. It was something that we learned from playing under coaches like Coach Sweeten and Coach Floro that we knew how to win, and playing for Coach Parseghian. We knew how to win.
Yeah, you guys, you both graduated, and Mike, you were drafted in the 4th round, 86 overall. And Willie, you were drafted by the Rams, I believe 14th round. There was a lot of rounds back then, I think. Mm-hmm. What was that moment like, just being able for each one of you, getting in the professional ranks and run down a little bit of your professional careers before you moved on from the sport.
You go first, Michael. Mine is
Okay. All right. So being a senior, having a national championship. Matter of fact, Willie and I both decided that when we became national champs, that we wasn't going to play basketball that following fall. We chose not to, and that's the year that the '88 that UCLA had. They had a record of 88, and Notre Dame beat them, and we could have been a part of that, but we chose not to play basketball that year because we were national champion. Once you're national champion, how do you get any better? So, but being drafted by the Vikings was a big challenge. It came at me kind of a surprise, like you say, in the fourth round. I was, when you're in the dorm and stuff, and when now they bring the players to a facility that they have all this hype and stuff up with the NFL supports and stuff like that. But we used to get phone calls in the dorm room telling you coach from whatever team, mine happened to be Minnesota's Bud Grant. And I really wasn't even in my room. My door was open. My next door neighbor answered the phone, and he screamed down the hall to get me to come to answer the phone. But I ended up talking to Coach Grant. He told me that he just drafted me in the fourth round, and that he wanted me to come visit Minneapolis, and so he could see what he got to offer from Minnesota. So at the time, I had to come up with an agent, and so in order because you're going and this is the first time, because you're dealing with a lot of documents that you have not been made aware of, but you know about them, but you've just not been made aware of. You need to make sure you don't sign your name to something that they tell you you're going to give you 100,000 and you only get 10,000 out. So you want to make sure you get all that what you signed up for. So I ended up coming up with an agent, and while I was working on getting a plane flight to Minneapolis, and flew to Minneapolis, and it was very awakening for me. I had never been to Minneapolis. Farthest north I had been, Detroit, Michigan. Went to Minneapolis, and on the side of the road there was piles of snow as high as 6 and 7 feet. I had never seen that much snow in my life. And we was going all the way to Municipal Stadium, which is home of the Vikings, and got there. And I asked Coach who picked me up from the airport. He said, I asked him, I said, how do people get around here? Because it's so much snow, it's just impossible to drive. He said, oh, you learn how to ski. I said, okay. I said, okay, that's how you get around. Okay. So, that was a rude awakening for me again. So we went there, and I got to talk to Coach Grant, got to meet him and stuff, and met the other coach, and met my defensive back coach and stuff. And they told me that what it was, and they would put documentation. Would I like to come there? And I told them, yes, I would, and stuff. And being that we had just won the national championship, I was feeling pretty good about myself, knowing that my talent was worthwhile, that they would draft me. And so I knew I had an in with them. And because I was very talented, and just the year before I led the nation in interceptions. And so, I had a lot going for me and stuff, and talking to Coach. And so I left there and came back, started thinking about it. And then the World Football League came about and got drafted. First round, first pick by Jacksonville. So now I got a hassle. I got Minnesota on one end. I just saw that snow. I went down to Florida to see Jacksonville, and here it is, sunshine. You got the Atlantic Ocean. You got beaches, and you wear far less clothes than you do in Minnesota, and weighed all that. And they gave me a bonus that was 4 times bigger than what was given to me up in Minnesota. So I had to weigh all that, talk to my agent. My agent said, well, Mike, you getting the kind of bonus that number 1 pick in the NFL is getting. So I weighed that. Okay, and the owner invited my parents down to visit with him, and with all that going on, so I ended up signing with Jacksonville. Even though I went with Minnesota, I could have been a national championship winner on January 1st and be in the Super Bowl the very next year. And I went with Minnesota. That's the only one thing that I think I did wrong through all my sport life. Had I had to do it over again, I probably would have went with Minnesota and not went with Jacksonville. But ended up playing a year down there. Team somewhat folded, left him, came back to the NFL, went to Minnesota. Didn't really like that. Ended up going with New York Giants and playing there. Then I said, well, shucks, I'm not going to beat myself to death. I'm going to education. I left football. I haven't regretted it. Like I say, the only regret is that I went to Minnesota right out of college. I would have changed my whole life. But I enjoyed everything I've done. I've talked with fellow players that played with me both in college and played professionally, and all of them enjoyed the game. And the biggest thing is that you come out of the game with all your faculties. That's the biggest thing, because football is a rough sport. It's really a rough sport. Basketball is rough too, but football, you can legally hit somebody and knock them into next week, as you know. As you keep. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it and had a lot of fun with it, and wouldn't see it any other different. And it's been a blessing both for my wife and I, and especially when we go back to South Bend, enjoy that. And Notre Dame's known all over the world. I've been recognized in islands, in the Caribbean. We get on ships and people recognize and want to come up and meet you and all that. It's like, go to different cities, find out people have been in Vegas and been recognized. It's a great feeling, and realize there's people out there that know you. I just met a gentleman the other day, and he knows all of my records. Oh, he was quoting them to me. And I'm like, unbelievable. These people know you that well and stuff. So it's a great feeling. It really is a blessing.
Yes, sir. If Willie, you could tell me about your experiences going with the Rams and what all happened with that.
Okay. All right. I got drafted by the Rams. Like Michael said, needed an agent. So my agent happened to be Parseghian. He negotiated my contract, okay? And which was nice, because I told him, I says, I have no idea what to do. And he says, well, you're going to need an agent. You're going to need this. And so I says, well, he says, I've done it for a few players. I can get my lawyer to get involved and get you set up. So he set me all up. And I went out and visited Chuck Knox, and great guy. And got in my car, took my drive to Southern California. So I drove out for practice, and with young bloods, both the young bloods, Jack Snow, as Michael has mentioned, Lance Rensel, and Ron Jaworski, and all these ball players that you read about or see on TV, but I got a chance to meet them all. And great guys, very funny. I remember going to preseason practices with the young bloods. They had a Jeep, and we were practicing on Cal State Fullerton campus. And I remember sitting in the back of the Jeep, holding on because they were chasing rabbits through the orange groves. here on campus. So it was fun, and they're all great people. We lived in the dorms and stuff like that. And I got a chance to play in several games, preseason games, and I enjoyed myself. I had my engineering degree, and what it came down to is that they wanted to trade me before season started to New York. And I went in and told coach, I says, I'm not saying I don't want to go to New York. I'm just saying that I have an engineering degree and I want to use my engineering degree. And so I did. I chose to use my engineering degree. I went to, I had a job already with a company called Corning Glassworks and in State College, Pennsylvania. And I went to work for Corning Glassworks and did quite well. Matter of fact, I made more money the first year working for Corning Glassworks than I would have made playing in the NFL. So I did quite well. I had an opportunity to do engineering. I worked in designing a robotic equipment using different kinds of systems called Numatrol back in the day. And basically we picked up and moved things around. And so I designed equipment to do that. I ended up being a supervisor, managing people on the floor and doing the same thing. And so I got quite adept at being able to design equipment and become very efficient. And so my career in NFL was short-lived. Short-lived because I felt like, hey, I can probably do better. I'd be better serving myself if I just went on and did my engineering degree. And it has served me quite well. And like Michael says, there's Notre Dame people all over the world and all over the United States. And if you need something, you need help or you need to contact somebody, you can go online or go to Notre Dame thing and find somebody in the area and that you want to go, and they'll help you. They'll help you. They may not get you the job, but they'll help you contact somebody that can help you get the job. I live here in Charlotte, in this neighborhood that I live in. There are three Notre Dame people that live in this neighborhood within 2 blocks of where I live. And matter of fact, there's a family just moved in here. I have a Notre Dame flag out in front of my house. I don't know why, but Notre Dame flag out in front of my house. And so I was out there washing my car one day, and this family, and this guy who retired and his wife, they stopped by to say hi. And I says, hey, you're in Notre Dame. I said, oh yeah, back in the day, So he says, do you know Gary Diminick? And do you know that? Did you play with him? Because I understood that there was a guy in our neighborhood that played with him. I said, that's probably me. He said, your name is? I said, told my name is. Oh yeah, we know who you are. And then my car is drying up in the sun because they can't wash it off. But anyway, that's the kind of things that happens, and some of that happens because of Notre Dame. Because everywhere I go, even to the gym, in other places, people want to talk about Notre Dame. Who you guys play this week? What do you think's going to happen? Got any information on this? What do you think about that? And people want to know about Notre Dame, and they love the Notre Dame coach. They love Marcus Freeman. Here in North Carolina, excuse me, they love that guy. I mean, and it's because people follow Notre Dame, and they follow what they know is somebody like Freeman, who is a person that's pushing people, young men, to be better and to be the best they can be. And that's the kind of environment that people tend to want to be a part of, that group of people, which is Notre Dame. And when you mention Notre Dame and football, people are on it. And my time with the Los Angeles Rams, great. Never had an issue. No problems at all. Loved it. Got to play in all the preseason games, and then didn't want to be traded. They said, "Hey, I can make more. I can do better. I can do better." Era taught us all to be the best we can be, and I wanted to be the best I could be. And being the best I could be didn't mean I had to play football. I could do other things.
Well, you guys all had great careers, not only athletically, but as you mentioned, Willie, after hanging up the sports, and it's just been a privilege to have you guys on here to kind of tell your story. Um, the generation I'm from, I went to Garfield as a middle school, and we see that banner painted on the wall up there, and I see the Townsend's names up there, and you know, we always kind of wondered, well, who are those guys? We don't know exactly because we're a lot younger, Then we might hear a little from our uncles and grandparents about what they were and what you guys did. So it's great to hear the story, from you guys personally, and I know the people will enjoy to hear from you guys, and just kind of hear your story and where you've been, and what you've been doing. So uh, really appreciate you guys coming on.
Hey, thank you. Very appreciate you having the program for us to come on to. That's great.
Uh,
Yeah,
I, I wish you the very best, Brandon. I really do. I appreciate you taking the time to do this with my two brothers and because, like I said, when I told you, I said it's never been done, and it's a story that needs to be told, and for not only people in Hamilton but people all over, and it's a great story of three young men growing up in big city of Hamilton and making it big in the real world, and still around. And so appreciate you coming together for us.
Yes, sir. When you talk about athletics and some of the greats in Hamilton, it can't be talked about without mentioning the Townsend brothers. And that's how I'm going to end this. Again, appreciate you guys, and best of wishes to you all.
thank you, man.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.